glittering plaid can be pretty intimidating, but with the technique that I like to use, I hope it becomes a lot more fun for you. And we will also be doing this extremely easy hand-painted birch tree wood look. But I know you guys got this. As always, I'll make sure to put everything I used today into the description box below so that you guys can shop those items if you would like to. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. Starting off with our tumbler base, I went ahead and I prepped and I primed a 20-ounce skinny tumbler with a handle. It didn't need to be painted white, but I just tend to do a bunch in bulk, so that's why it is white. So I'm going to go ahead and block off the bottom portion because we are going to go ahead and get started on our birch tree look along the top. So I am just going to take my painter's tape and I'm going to place it right underneath the handle, and that area underneath that's being blocked off will become our glittered plaid area. After the bottom is blocked off, I will take it outside and I'm just going to spray paint it a basic black. After our spray paint has dried, we're going to take it back inside and we are going to do a little bit of crackling along the surface. Now we only need a very tiny amount of this crackle medium because we are not fully covering the tumbler with this crackle medium. We are just going to be taking a chip brush and we are just going to be doing dashes of this medium around the base. So we're just going to load up our medium right onto our brush here, and we're just, again, going to take it and we're going to do these horizontal dashes just randomly around the base. Now, I really prefer using the crackle medium versus the glue technique because I feel like it's just so much more simpler. The only thing you have to do is load on your medium wherever you would like it, and you want it to be dried completely. That's all you have to do. So I just take a hair dryer and I just make sure that I come through and I dry this completely. You'll know it's dry when you touch it and it's not tacky anymore. Now that our crackle medium is all nice and dry, we're going to go ahead and apply our paints. I'm going to be using Lamb's Wool by Pop of Color. Then I'm going to take a mop brush and I'm going to go ahead and get a decent amount of that paint on my bristles here, because the whole point of this is you want to try your best to come through and do one swipe over your base. But it is not a big deal if you don't, because it will just add more to that texture and look that we are going for anyways. Now, after you have your paint on, you see how I left some of those areas still black. That, again, that's what you want. You want it to look like that. Now I'm just going to take my blow dryer once more and I'm going to go ahead and dry my paints, and then you'll start to see that crackle effect come through. Now, once that is nice and dry, to give it a little bit more texture, we're going to take a very small dab of black acrylic paint. I'm going to show you how small of a dab I'm doing. That's about all you need. That's it. And we are also going to need a dry chip brush once more. And taking our chip brush, we're just going to pounce that right into that black dot we made, because we are just going to be doing a dry brush technique right over top of everything. You just want to do this extremely lightly, and you want to make sure that you go in the same direction. So again, we're going to go horizontally because we're trying to give it that birch tree look, and we're just going to very carefully sweep our brush right across the surface. And as you can see, I kind of turn it sideways to give it a little bit more of effect. I even do a little bit of a hatching motion where I go horizontally and vertically over one specific area, again, just to add more to that birch tree look. And if you have a handle on your tumbler, don't forget to do the handle. You want to make sure you get it up on the inside and outside of it to make sure that everything really goes together. Dry brushing is almost very similar to if you have ever done a wood grain with alcohol inks. You just want to keep swiping back and forth until it's pretty much dry, but I think it just really amplifies that look we're trying to go after. But after you get done and you feel like you wanted to fill in a little bit more areas with your lighter color, don't be afraid to come back through and dry brush your lighter color over top of your darker color until you get that look that you are after. So now that our paint is all on, we are going to go ahead and peel back our tape here, and we are going to get started on our plaid. So a long time ago, this was dubbed the lazy method for glitter plaid, and I like it. I prefer it, so that's what I'm going to do. But a long time ago, before I started YouTube, I learned from another YouTuber on how to do these. So I'll make sure to tag that video down below. First things first, you're going to choose two colors. I chose Wishful and Blue Spruce from SOCglitters.com if you would like to purchase those. And we are going to do a 50-50 mix with the two colors we intend to use. So I'm going to do 50% of my pink and 50% of the green. Then you just want to make sure that you stir that up very, very well. Now this is going to be our base for our plaid. Now we are just going to come through and get our glitter base down. So I'm just going to take some glitter glue and I'm going to be very careful and butt that glue up right next to the paint job that we did. Then we will simply take that mix and we will just load up the bottom. Now it's super important whenever you're doing it in this method that each layer is completely dry before you move on to the next layer. So we're going to go ahead and let that dry completely. Now after it is dried, we're going to go ahead and dry brush off any of those extra glitters that just didn't get adhered down to our glue. And another important step is sealing in between layers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do the full tumbler this round with my spray sealer. Then we are ready to move on to our next step. So now the next step is making that plaid look. So to mask off for the plaid, I am using 3/4 of an inch size painter's tape. But don't be afraid to use something bigger or smaller if you want to, depending on how big of a tumbler you are using. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and protect our painted surface and just apply a stripe of our tape right around the top of our glitter line. Now for this size tumbler, we're going to take 2 pieces of painter's tape. This is the first painter's tape, and we are going to make an X with it up and completely around the bottom here. The main thing with this is you want to make sure that that tape is in the center of the bottom, and you want to make sure the sides are as straight as you can possibly get them. Now taking your second piece of painter's tape, you're just going to, again, place that right into the center, making this cross at the bottom of your tumbler and making sure that the sides are as straight as possible as well. Now after I get my vertical lines on, I like to hold it back up and just kind of look at it straight on and adjust my tape lines from there if I need to. Then we'll be ready to move on to our horizontal lines. You just want to take a small piece of painter's tape and we're going to use that as our spacer for our horizontal lines. I also like to add one around the back as well. Again, this just really helps out and make sure that our tape line is going to stay as straight as possible. But after our spacers are put down, we're going to go ahead and get our first stripe put down. You just want to take another piece of painter's tape going completely around the base. Then you will go ahead and take your spacers and you will move it up above that tape line that you just applied. After you move your spacers up above your tape line, then you will go ahead and apply one more piece of tape going completely around the base. After that, you're going to go ahead and remove those spacers and your template is ready to be glittered. Now taking a dab of our glitter glue, we're going to go ahead and put a little dab into each one of these little squares, and we are going to take our brush and we're going to smooth that out nice and evenly in each one of these little squares. Then taking one of the 2 colors that you used for the mixed base, in this instance I took green and we're going to do green first. We're going to go ahead and sprinkle the green right over top. Now I do just the painting individually, kind of each column. This just helps out in case that glue decides to dry a little too quick on me. So I just do a little bit, I do 1 row at a time is what I do. So we're just going to come through and we want to do each one of these squares, and I did do the bottom as well. So just filling in with a little bit of our glue and then filling in with our glitter over top. And once our little squares are filled in with our glitter, we're going to go ahead and move right into removing that painter's tape. Now again, I'm going to show you why it's very important for you to let this dry in between. You can see there's a little bit of that glue that got seeped up underneath our tape line. That's okay, because we're going to set it off to the side and let that dry completely, because we don't want our second color to get glued down into areas we don't want it to get glued down into. So set that off to the side, let it dry completely. Now taking your second glitter color, so in my instance this was my pink, it was the Wishful, we're going to go in between each one of these green squares that we did. So we're going to again take a dab of our glitter glue, we're going to take a flat brush and we're going to make a square right in between the 2 green squares. And once after you have your square made with your glue, you're just going to go ahead and shake that second color right over top. And there we go, we're getting that plaid going. So again, I'm just going to repeat that process all the way around, making sure that I skip over every other row of the green there and just going right in between each green box, completing this look. And if you did the bottom like I did, again, just coming through and completing that look around the bottom as well. And of course, after we were done glittering, we went ahead and set that off to the side to let that completely dry. Then after it is completely dry, we're going to again take our chip brush and sweep away any loose glitters that just didn't get adhered down. We will take it outside and give it a good spray of our spray sealer. And we are ready to add our first coating of epoxy over top of everything. So I'm going to take about 20 milliliters of epoxy there. I'm going to go ahead and spread that out evenly across the whole surface of my tumbler. After that, I'll place it onto my turner. I'll hit it up really good with my torch, popping any little micro bubbles, and then I'm going to let that cure. Now, after that cures, we're going to go ahead and clean up our rim really good. So I'm just going to take my razor knife and I'm just going to run that along the rim, removing any extra epoxy up there. Then I'll take my sandpaper and just give it a nice finished tailored look to the top rim. And I will also sand along the bottom where we did the glitter plaid. I don't really need to do up around the painted base. There's really nothing to sand up there. And I don't want to accidentally sand away any of our paint job if I go too deep down into the epoxy. So I'm just going to sand around the bottom and of course wipe away any debris that might have formed after all that sanding. Now this part is completely optional, but I wanted to add some speckles of green up in my painted area up at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and actually tape off the bottom since I sanded down there, and it'll be too hard to remove the paint where I don't want it since it's sanded down there. So I'm just going to go ahead and block that off. Then I take any green spray paint and I just get it spraying and I just gently remove my finger from the nozzle until it starts to spit and sputter out the end. And then I just fill up my base to how much splatters I would like. So after I'm back inside, I like the way it looked, kind of look like maybe moss on the tree. You know, this is something I liked. Now for the decal I got it straight off of Creative Fabrica and it came just like this. And I am going to do a reverse weed with it because it's a little bit finer in certain places. So it was just too hard to peel this particular vinyl back. It's like a glittery vinyl. So I just went ahead and I removed everything off the backing and I put it right onto the tumbler, and I'm just going to remove the outside area in this fashion. But sometimes those fonts, they're just a little too thin and it's just a little too difficult, especially with these specialty vinyls. Now for the bottom plaid, you could leave it as is and just put a pretty pinstriping around the center. It looked nice just like it was, but I decided to add some of this nail tape around all of it to kind of just give it a little bit extra. So for the green, I decided I'm going to be doing 2 stripes of that in between the pink lines here. So I'm going to make sure that when I put my green down, I'm leaving myself enough space to put another stripe right kind of next to it once we're done with this one. So again, just up and around, just like we did with our tape to begin with. Then again, I will take the second piece of green nail tape and just going right next to that first one we did, giving it kind of that double look, again, going up and around over to the other side and cutting off any extra that hangs over into the areas that I don't want it to be. And of course, flipping it and doing the other pink area with the double green pinstriping as well in the same exact fashion, up and over and around and cutting off any extra. Then with the pink pinstripe, I'm only going to do 1 of these in between the green. That's just how I wanted to do it. If you wanted to do it double, you could do that as well. But again, straight down the center of each one of those green columns and just cutting off the extra on the other side. Then to finish it up, I'm just going to go horizontally right around the top of our glitter line, and then I will go right in between each pink line with my green tape. And I finished it up with a bit of that nail tape around the handle as well. Again, you can do this in any fashion you would like with however many little stripes you'd like. It's completely up to you. And once you have your pinstriping all done, you want to make sure that you seal that down really, really well. Sometimes this pinstriping has a tendency to lift up at the edges, so you just want to make sure that you seal it down really well. Now into one of my final coats of epoxy, I did end up adding some sparkle dust and dusty pink right into the epoxy. Just a little bit, goes a very long ways. I just wanted to give it just a little bit more sparkle. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.